have a megastar, Instagram star. I've been hassling this lady for such a period of time, and that is why I am so excited to welcome onto the How to Cut It podcast. Joining us from the US, the delightful Rachel Williams. Welcome to How to Cut It, Rachel.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm real excited that we can finally connect and have this day together.
This is the art, isn't it, Rachel? That if you really want to connect with somebody, pursue at it.
Exactly.
So we
Absolutely.
sort of we reached out with Rachel on our Instagram because I've become a real fan of Rachel's Instagram account. Her work is just absolutely nuts. So there's a US accent, so give our listeners a heads up where you're based.
Yes, I am based out of Fayetteville, Arkansas, so I am in the South. So so I have been here, well, actually born here, but I was lived here in Texas too. So yeah,
Do you know
I'm in
what
Fayetteville.
we quite often talk about here in the UK now is US hairdressing, right? Has gone from it just probably in our eyes, the years of maybe big hair of Dallas and not very cool, to suddenly the world of social has just made American hairdressing really, really exciting. I mean, what's your take on it?
Oh, I 100% agree. Social, the social media platform, like Instagram especially, um, it's just, it's so amazing to see different, like, different parts and different, like, there's different styles everywhere you go, and then just being able to see that all and then inspiring everyone as you're seeing that, like, you get inspired, even if it's, even through the world, right? So it's not just in your country, it's like worldwide, and so the inspiration is just bouncing everywhere, and I find that really really fun and inspiring, because back in the day, like, if you didn't go to a hair show or look at a magazine, that's all you saw, right? So you get these creatives that get this platform that literally that get to let loose and just inspire everybody. I love it. I've enjoyed it
Yeah,
so much.
I agree. I think when you look through it, I think what excites me right now as well, and you've really carved out this, and I think you're one of the real sort of pushers of the shag haircuts. You were right there at the front. I mean, it's got big, hasn't it, the shag haircut?
Absolutely. And I'm so happy it has. But yeah, so I've been pushing that for like 4 years now, and I think it just finally just, woke people up. And I felt like, for me, I get bored. I've been in the industry 22 years, right? So we get bored, and I'm like, okay, we got to change this up. And so I just started cutting my clients and telling them, like, let's do this, and they were down for it, and just putting it out there. um, yeah, so it really helped, inspire, I think, get that out there, and then people started being like, "Oh, I want that." Clients wanted that, and so I love that. I love that it kind of gives you that power to show what you think is the next trend, whether it is or not. Um, but I felt like it was kind of boring. It was just kind of the middle part with pretty waves, and I'm like, let's get some movement in there, and let's get some haircuts going, because we've lost kind of the hair cutting realm, right? Like, I do both. I color and cut, but cuts like make it. They like seal the deal with hair, and I just wanted to like show that I could do that.
Are you niche? Because we're told in a world, Rachel, that sometimes you have to really make your niche in one area, particularly of the industry. I mean, you're an incredible colorist and an incredible hair cutter. I mean, is that something that you really try and work on?
Well, so, being in the industry as long as I have, and like when I came up in the hair, world, it was, you're a generalist. You better learn it all. You better learn how to do it all behind the chair. And actually, like, I'm glad. I'm happy for that. Like, I'm glad that I like learned everything and took many classes and all the things, because if you're going to be an educator, you better, like, I feel like it's important to know all aspects of the hair world in order to create programs to teach. If you niche yourself too much, what happens when that trend changes? We've been in this industry long enough that to know that
Right.
everything changes. So what happens when you block yourself in one niche? And that's fine because there's probably going to be people that always stay in that niche. But if you're going to educate, people move on because they want to learn the new thing. They want to learn something different. So I always tell when I'm teaching a class and I get questions about educating, I'm always like, you need to take. I always encourage like learn how to cut, learn how to color, learn how to do texture hair, learn them all if you're going to be an educator, especially with a big brand. So I think it's important for me. I didn't grow up in the industry of being niched. so I kind of am concerned when I see people only doing balayage or only doing foils or, only cutting bobs. And that's all they're learning. So I do have concern for that because if you're going to educate, right, I think it's
Mm.
important to know what you're doing. Even if you're not, like I know how to cut men's hair, I'm not going to teach it, but I know how to do it, and I know the how to walk you through it and teach you. So
Yeah.
I think it depends on what you're going to do with your career.
Do you know, it's really interesting that you're saying that as well, Rachel, is that today we done a podcast, our first of the year, it's me going solo. And I talk about the pivot, and I'm a massive believer in pivoting and never be
Hmm.
frightened of change. And I'm guessing that, throughout your 22 years, which I can't believe that you've been doing hairdressing 22 years, uh, but we have to keep pivoting. And I think that sometimes people find their groove and that they get success on that, whether that's through clients, education, social, but they get stuck with that. And it's really important, isn't it, to move and never be frightened to go off in a slightly different direction.
Absolutely. It everything pivots, life pivots. Like this industry constantly pivots because trends constantly change. Um, and also I love that the fact that with social media, you give the power to stylists and innovators to create the trends. What we're seeing that even with TikTok and like, young TikTokers where like the movie stars are looking at the TikTokers, seeing what the trends are from them. And I'm finding this really interesting what social media has brought to this because it gives you a lot more power and a lot more creative power. So I always like say we just reinvent. Everything's reinvented. It's like you take something from the past, you tweak it, you use that as inspiration, and you make it modern. You're seeing 90s come back really a lot, right? So,
Yeah.
so it's constantly that. But I always say be innovative and like put new stuff out there, try new techniques and show that. But yeah,
I mean, and I've got to say, at the moment, I am really, really loving a lot of the hair work I see. And again, because I think it's because we're starting to move on again now from what we've seen maybe last 5, 6 years, the
mhm.
balayage waves, and now we've got an edgier look. And I feel that's maybe just how society is going in general. But what I'm loving as well is how we're adapting all the time to social, because I'm guessing 22 years for you, it wasn't Instagram that was a natural start because Instagram wasn't going. When did social play its part in the early Rachel in your
Mhm.
career?
So social, like I first like started when I owned my salon was Facebook, right? So we had Facebook before Instagram, and I would, do everything to, put all the things out there to attract clients and fill my chairs, with clients. So then I relocated. I came back to Fayetteville. I'm bored. I'm from here, and I sold my salon. Came back here, no clients. And you want to talk about like a little humbling from going from an owner booked out for a year, like, didn't have to worry about that anymore, to coming somewhere where no one knows you. And that's just when Instagram had started like a year prior. So I had like a personal Instagram, put some hair up there every once in a while. I would kind of mesh both worlds together. And I needed clients. So I was kind of defeated and feeling sorry for myself. And my daughter at the time, who was 17, was living, she's not living with me now, but she was living with me. And I was like, I'm just gonna have to like what am I gonna do? I don't know. I'm gonna have another job and all these things. And I was just down, just so down. And she's like, Mom, what are you doing? You have Instagram. You need to put, do these hashtags and you need to change it all to hair and you need to do all these things. And so I sat down, she showed me some things how to, really navigate and use it as a tool to build my clientele. So that's what I did. And I just went on YouTube and watched videos, watched marketing, like really just learned it. Went on Behind the Chair and they would have articles and I would read those articles, Behind the Chair, Hair Brain, American Salon, all the things, Modern Salon. I would read all these articles and figure this out. And by 6 months, I was fully booked and then moved on. So then it was like, okay, now I want to get back into the educating game, which I have done before. I educated the hair shows. I worked under Michael O'Rourke. And so I was
The
part,
founder of Sexy Hair, yeah?
exactly. I was part of the old school, like, um, how it used to be, like the shows and the circuit, and, starting from like I set the stages up, I unpacked all the stuff, and then I would blow dry all day because that man never stops. He's amazing. He never stops working. I would, do all the things and then pack everything back up for nothing, got paid nothing, but I did it. And that was part of that time. Right. And, so it's interesting coming from and then having Instagram because I get a lot of, oh, you're an influencer. Oh, these influencers are educators. And I'm just like, but I am an educator first. And so,
Did that
just
matter to you? Because that's a really good point. I love how you just shared that, and I love what you're sharing here as well. But we are so caught up in the word influencer, aren't we? And I think
right,
it's important, and actually, your influence is actually being used for a reason.
right.
And,
Like to educate and to,
yes,
to be able to show and share and all the things. Um, so does it bother me? So I will tell you, sometimes it bothers me because the way when I go to certain events, um, people that don't know my background that are educators, and because you'll have the educators and they'll bring on influencers, right? So you have their core educators, and then you have the influencers they'll bring onto the team. It's not always like so nice, like the
I
attitudes
get that.
the attitudes aren't always, and I'm like, but I'm one of y'all too. So it's kind of like I have a friend, Jack Howard, he's from the UK, who's
We know
been
Jack,
an
yeah.
educator, and he just learned how to, it's like when you've done something for so long, when you've been in this industry this long, we know things pivot just in the world in general, right? And so you see that and you're like, if I'm going to stay relevant, I'm going to do this. And I feel like so many educators were like, I'm not going to do that. That's ridiculous. I'm not getting on Instagram. I'm an educator. And they're good. They're damn good. They're amazing. And I mean, I grew up in my industry learning from every one of them. And they didn't do it. So now you have this younger generation
Yeah,
coming
what you're
up that
sharing.
doesn't know who they are. And it's so sad because
Mm.
they're so good and they're so relevant, and they no one knows. I mean, I have actually taught a class where they didn't know who Vidal Sassoon was, and I'm like, what? So it
Do
does.
you think we're getting caught up in this then, Rachel? I really hear what you're saying there.
Mhm.
That the influencer has become more important than the educator. It's almost like if they look gorgeous and they've got a brand about them.
Yeah, I do think we are. It does. I think brands are learning too, though. I think that when the boom happened, they were hiring these influencers, and then influencers would get on stage, or they put them in a classroom, and they were like, it was just a disaster. So I think that they're pulling back. I think brands have learned they're pulling back, and they're using their core educators, and then they're training you have to train new educators. If you're going to have them educate and put them on stage, you better train them, because there's so much more to it than it's a whole nother realm than making a video,
And
right?
that's really interesting, isn't it? Because we come from a 2 year pandemic, and there's green shoots starting to spring up again, and live events are starting to happen again. But there is probably a generation of people that have not done the stage work, but have probably got a big presence
Right.
with their social. And there is a huge difference, isn't there, Rachel, when you're in front of a class, stage, delivering and engaging an audience.
There's a huge difference. It's and you have to understand too, when you're teaching a class, those stylists are there to learn, and they're going to ask you the hard questions. They're going to want to know the why. And if you don't know how to explain the why, or you're just not teaching it, you're just up there like you're doing a client's hair, then it's gonna backfire. And then and we've seen that happen. And so I think the boom happened with social media, and now everybody is like, oh, okay, and we're figuring that out. Like, and I think some of those influencers have been humbled by it, and they're like, I need to learn how to do this, and they're gonna, they're taking it serious. Are those kind of, you won't see them anymore. When it'll all, the cream rises to the top. Like, it all works itself out.
Amen to that. I always say that the real quality shows through,
Hmm.
and becomes. But again, we're having to adapt because social adapts, and at the end of the day, social wants to earn money. Because
Right.
that's they Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, wherever you may be hanging out, they all have a purpose, and that's to keep eyes on there. And the more eyes on there, more money they earn. So therefore, they're not really got us at heart, thinking, oh, these hairdressers and these educators. So it's your duty, isn't it, to really keep a content out there. But I worry, Rachel, that we're starting to become entertainers and not content creators anymore. And by that, I feel Instagram, it's almost like, are we getting a bit lost in the views and the engagement for actually what? For more and more hairdressers are dancing. I don't want to see hairdressers dancing.
Right.
There's many great people. Do you have a view on that?
This is a great question, and it's a conversation that I've had with many of my hairdressing friends, and like they're like, okay, and I'm watching stylists do these skits all the time, and that's their whole Instagram now, and they're raising in numbers, but who's following you? Number one, and what is your purpose of this? Um, so that gets tricky. So if you're gonna just do funny videos all the time, or and some of them do annoy me, like I'm over the making fun of clients constantly, but that's another issue.
That's another issue. We won't go there.
We
Actually,
won't
we're
go
talking
there
about
right
that in
now.
tonight's live show. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, well, I always say slow and steady wins the race. Patience and knowing and having a complete goal and a focus. If you just So for me, I might throw something funny up every once in a while, but I'm gonna really focus on educating, because that's what I want to do. So I'm just gonna continually put that out there, because over time, I know that'll still be standing because it has value, and I want to teach. So if I'm doing funny videos constantly, then what am I going to teach that in a class? Like, are you going to teach how to do reels in a class? Are you going to teach how to put a TikTok together? I can go to YouTube and do that.
Mm.
But,
I think that's really true. It
you
is
know,
exactly that. It's about providing content. And I love following people. And hence why I got so engaged into everything that you've been doing slowly and quietly. I've been watching away. And the reason I really am drawn to your account, one, is that you create beautiful work, but you educate it in such a delightful way. And it really comes over to me that education for you is really at the core of what you do, whilst balancing your time behind the chair, Rachel. What is it that's taken that Rachel from the young lass starting out in her industry, that probably we don't see the educator, but what has took you that way? What was it that you felt, yeah, this really hooks me in educating?
well, I think, like, we evolve over time. Everybody, has a different, like, whatever inspires them. When I owned my salon, I had a lot of new stylists, that like babies, just didn't really like, kind of were a little lost getting on the floor. So I created like a program for my salon and really enjoyed it. And I really enjoy like the intimacy and the one-on-one of training. That's where I connect. And I realize that's what I really love doing. I love stage work. That's fun, but I really love the in-person classes.
Is stage work not education
It
work?
is, but it's a different aspect of it, right? You're getting little bits. It's like little bits and pieces of it,
Yeah, I get
but
that.
it's not like it is when you're in class, right? When you're right there with them. And when I was training my own team and starting from like grassroots, starting from the very beginning, and just so much to it, like not just how to like do certain, hair, but how to build, how to do your taxes, how do you keep your clients coming back, all these things that they needed like a mentor for. And that's kind of my personality anyway. Like when I see someone struggling, I want to be help if I can. So by doing that in my own salon, I really love doing that. And I was at a show with Michael Wark in a big classroom doing, it was his cutting classes, and his daughter like noticed me, came to my salon. We hit a, her name is Ashley, and she just got to talking to me, and I was like, I really love educating. I'd love to learn more about it. And, getting in with educating bigger audiences, how do I do that? And so that's how I started with Michael. And that just inspired me more, like being at those shows and seeing that energy and just being around hairstylists. We're like the
Uh,
best people, right?
yeah,
Like
because we are. I absolutely go with that. We are some of the most engaging people of any profession because that's what we do
mhm,
day in, day out. Take away all our education and social world. We're people behind the chair.
right.
We engage with our clients. We can go off in every kind of conversation route that we need to because that is actually a huge part of what we do. And I think that's really important that you share that. And I think what is really important as well, what you were just saying, is there isn't a school I don't feel that you can really go to become an educator. It's almost this has to naturally evolve.
It does. It has to kind of naturally evolve, and you have to, I'm grateful to be around watching like Michael work, and the way he educated and handled an audience, and how he did what he did is so inspiring. And so it kind of shows if he can do it, like I can do it too. And then when you're on that circuit, you're meeting all different educators. So that kind of that's like the gasoline, right, for the fire. It keeps you going. And then
Mm.
and so like that kind of stays with you. But I think we're always educating. If you've gone to that part, like we're educating anyway. We're educating in the salon to other stylists. We're educating our clients. I hate saying educating our clients, but we're always showing them how to take care of their hair, or how to style it, or like among their
We're
life.
educating them.
We're
Yeah, but
educating them.
we are. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, we are
We're
educating them.
always educating. I had an
Where are
experience.
you at heart, though, Rachel? Are you an educator now? Would you say that your attention is driven more to educating, or are you more driven as are you salon owner?
No, not anymore. So I sold
So
my
you came
salon.
away for that.
I'm over that. I'm over that. Yeah, over that.
So am I. I kind of came over that. Why did you come away from that?
Well, it was it kind of came at a point in life where there was some personal things going on in my life, and I moved back home. So, which I hadn't been here in 25 years, So, but I needed to go somewhere. I needed to be here. So it was kind of a good time release because I'd done it 12 years. But I needed to focus on me, and I needed that energy to focus on me and my family because it requires so much. And yeah, so I sold my salon. I did it within a year of it. Like it was a slow process. It was planned. It wasn't last minute. And I decided like I'll just be the hairstylist behind the chair for right now, you
Did
know.
you feel freer for
I
doing that?
I did. But what happens is though, what happens is you feel freer. But when you're an owner and when you're somebody that kind of like had their way, like, did it there, like had things working their way, it's you have to learn that to keep the mouth shut, right? And like our
That's not always easy.
right. And so and how to like not overstep any boundaries, or like, you find yourself wanting to help out when you see things maybe I wouldn't run it this way, um and also I think it's a certain personality type, right? Like there's different personality types. I think any educator that's done this, been in the industry and done this for many years, or a salon owner, whether an educator, salon owner, both, whatever it may be, there's a certain personality type, right? And so it's always like, I've accomplished this, what next? I've
Yeah.
accomplished
Pivot.
right, because with every top of the mountain is another mountain's beginning, right? So it's like you have this personality type that is like, okay, it's I gotta you change and you pivot and you want to do more.
Yeah. Are you always hungry for more? Or does there come a point, Rachel? Yeah, shit, I'm becoming a bit drained of this.
No, I think there's points in time where I'm just like, oh, but I think that's just because of the environment of like, it's been a hard 2 years, right? Like going through what we've all gone through, this whole
Oh, yeah.
world has gone through. And I think that drains you. But for me, the hair world is like an escape. It's like the one place where I'm me. I'm not mom, I'm not sister, I'm not, this person that does, I mean, it's the one place that I just can feel like I can be me. And it's the one place where I connect the most. You put me in a room, a bunch of hairstylists, and I can talk all day long. You take me to a party, I don't know anybody, I'm gonna sit and watch everybody.
What are you like away from the the Instagram, name that we all know? The one big, the one shot winner behind the chair, art team. I mean, you really are at the what I call, Hollywood gold in hair
Oh,
world.
thank you.
But you're such a beautiful person, and that comes over so lovely, and that's really important, isn't it? To make sure that you keep connected and you never take yourself so serious, but it's about how you manage that personal life of yours as well. And what's that world like for you, Rachel?
Well, I think for me, it's like figuring out how to put things in compartments, which I think men are really good at. So I've had to learn. It's just how our brains are different or whatever, and it's learning. I've had to learn to do that, but hair is like intertwined with my personal life. I don't think for me, you know, um, when my boyfriend and I started dating, he was like, all you follow is hair. Like, all you do is hair. Everything's hair. You're watching a hair video, you're doing this, you're right. I mean, I'm consumed with it. So there is really like not a lot of separation. Um, so I do my behind the chair and I take care of my family, but my downtime, I'm always learning. My downtime, I'm listening to people, I'm getting inspired. I work out the gym, I always listen to a hair podcast. Like i I consume myself with it. So but that's a
And that's important, isn't it? Because the industry, if you don't consume yourself with this, and I talk about this a lot, is there's a small core of the industry, and it's probably global as well, not just a UK island thing, but there's a small core of people that really engage in every part of the industry. They'll know who the greats are, they'll know who the rising stars are, but there's such a big circuit of people who just go and do hair, and nothing wrong with that.
no.
But I feel sometimes they're missing out on actually making the industry so much more exciting for themselves, making that day behind the chair a little bit more exciting,
Right.
just by dipping in and finding out more about what's going on.
It's definitely a mindset. And we and I've always kind of sometimes like I envy some of the stylists that are like, they just come to work, they do their clients, and they go home, and that's what they do. And maybe their passion, like they look like they love to do hair, but that's not really their true passion. Maybe their passion is some like whatever their hobby is. That's their passion. It's not hair. So it's hard for me to understand that when I'm so like,
Yeah.
involved with it. Um,
But I think that's what keeps us all in the industry. Certainly for me, 36 years and still hugely into the industry. In truth, it's kind of what I think about. And but you have to work at this sometimes. It's not just something that will happen if you don't, keep
well,
yourself
right.
fresh and like what
Nothing
you
comes
say.
to
Keep,
you. You have to want it. And again, that's mindset. And I think that's growth and maturity. And some stylists get it, they figure it out a lot younger. And I think social media helps that because now you have the younger stylists constantly
do you think
seeing.
it's been? Do you think it's good for the industry? Do you get excited by the industry where we're at right now?
To be honest, I get excited by certain educators that I follow. Do I get, as far as the industry in whole, I see a lot of repetitiveness, a lot of copying, a lot of people just like, oh, this is what this person's doing, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. And I'll go through like content and it's like the same thing, the same thing, the same thing. And then I stop and somebody's doing something different and I get excited. So I think, that's with anything though, like, um,
It is, I guess. But we spoke about this again in the live show last week, Rachel, and this is great. I'm really connected to everything you're talking about, and we were talking about this whole kind of social element, and I guess we're hooked into this because you are Rachel Williams, massive on Instagram and made a big success. But the thing is, sometimes are we posting for our own ego, or are we posting for our clients or our salons? And I guess if they're kind of doing the repetitive stuff, maybe that's what the clients want to see, or is
absolutely.
it? But if
But
you're doing it for the industry, maybe you need to be looking at it from a different angle.
that's a really good question. And I love that question. It's really the motives behind why you're doing it. So
Mm.
I find myself, you know, I have experience too. So when I post, it's something I really want to show. It's not like, oh God, I gotta throw this up because everybody's throwing something up. Um, but that comes with, I think, time and maturity and like you figuring that out. And I think that we're just seeing people trying to figure that out for themselves. Again, entertainment wise, um, you got to be careful because you see this and then you see the others start doing it. And then I'm like, so what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do? You have this audience, but you're just doing, you're just entertaining, which is funny. Like some people are really funny. I think it's like learning,
Lots aren't though.
huh?
Lots aren't though.
No, you know who I think that does it really well, who's from the UK, is Sophia Hilton. Um,
Yeah, I know Sophia very well, and
yeah,
she does do that well. But again, Sophia could be Marmite. I think it's really difficult on how this. I know Sophia extremely well. I really am a massive fan of Sophia because she's great at pivoting and reinventing herself, and she's ahead of the curve. She doesn't follow.
no, she doesn't.
Everybody follows her,
Right.
but it's almost like it's a very difficult world. And I know she listens to the show, so she'll hopefully hear this as well. And I, I wonder sometimes it's very hard for her because she's got so many things now as part of not another brand
Hmm.
that becomes challenging. And then it's the because she plays the entertainer, doesn't she? But she really engages people, I guess, in what she's doing, and it can be not for everybody. It can offend people as well.
Right, because she's creating the kind of people though, but that's, you attract the people that like how you think and like what you have to give. Now, is she gonna piss some people off? Absolutely, I see it. Like she is very bold and says what she wants to say. Um, I admire anybody that can do that. Do I always agree with them? No, but I still respect and admire 'em.
Yeah,
Would I do certain things? No, because it's not my personality. It's not who I am. I feel like Sophia has created a brand for herself where people go to. It's, she doesn't show a lot of education, but what she does is get you in, drawn in where you take her education. So
But
she's
I wonder as well, Rachel. Sorry, I'm jumping in, being dead rude there. Sorry,
no, it's fine.
but it's almost like I think it becomes some ways social starts to take hairdressers' eyes and heads turned a little bit because they become more in love with the content creator than actually what
They can teach
got them to wear.
with it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Sophia, I'm sure she won't mind me saying because I am her biggest fan. I honestly, I could not say a bad thing about Sophia because I know she is a mega hair talent.
Hmm.
But I do wonder sometimes, does she start to get to the point where being a salon owner, is that her real love anymore? Is the content creator becoming more of the love? Because even if I look at her courses now, it's becoming more of a content creator, you know, how to write the captions and all that. And I just wonder, because Instagram is such a creative place and we're creative people, therefore it could turn our heads and maybe start to take us actually away from what brought us there was hair, and suddenly you're on there and
Right. But people
I'm
will
more in love with
seek
creating
some
digital content.
exactly. Well, people will seek what they want. So if that you know, we follow more than one person. So someone will follow her that, you know, she attracts them for her what she says or what she's teaching at that point, and then they'll follow Jack Howard because they want to learn how to paint, and he's just going to do video. He's showing education, just education, right? And he's
Yeah.
very positive and uplifting. Two different personalities showing two different things, but you can have the same follower with both completely different people because it's what they're getting from that person. um I feel like too, like someone like Sophia will pivot. She'll pivot like when she's like bored of what she's doing. She's no dummy. She is going to figure it out, and she'll pivot and she'll show something else, and she'll keep it in the hair world. um
Yeah, and we know that with great rock artists, great bands, great
right.
musicians, the best and the most iconic names do that throughout their career. And I feel that's what the industry has to do. And certainly in the UK, you know, when I think of people like Angelo Seminara and you know, all
Yes.
these names, even Lee Stafford of old, they reform themselves, they remold themselves. And it's like where we started our conversation, being able to do that. That's why it's great to be equipped in colouring, cutting, and evolving. And you're always prepared to that evolve. But who would be your tribe, Rachel? Who are the people that are coming and watching you?
So I like what I really try to speak to is the newer stylist, or the stylist that is burnt out and kind of uninspired. Um,
Mm.
I I really want to, you know, I feel like it's so important. If you want to change the anything, you start from the ground up. If you want to inspire the ones that are really going to truly be the innovators, it's our future. So it's our youth, it's our younger stylists, or it's our stylists that have just been so burnt out, lost motivation from whatever experience they've had. Um, and they just forgot like why they started or where they started, you know, like that's who I want to speak to. So
I think that's a great tribe to speak to.
yeah, that's kind of where, that's why I do like mannequin videos, and that's why I want to talk about like techniques and how to like change with the trends and why it's important. Like I don't just show that I can color, I show that I can cut. I started off
And
getting,
boy, you can cut.
I
You
love cutting.
can really cut.
And
And I'm going to tell the audience right now, again, if you don't know of Rachel, firstly, I'd ask why. But secondly, the thing about Rachel is her work is just work your clients will absolutely love. and
thank you.
and that's the money hair. You know, that's the hair that's going to actually make you the money, because they're going to want to come to you and probably hear me really well on this. I don't mean this. It's not hairdressers' hair, and I think that's a real skill.
Right. It's
Doing beautiful, gorgeous hair.
thank you. It's wearable hair. And
Yeah.
I you know, I love how you said it's not hairdresser's hair. I've always not wanted to look like you. I never want you to look at me and be like, "That's a hairdresser at that table."
we all know it,
Right,
and
we do.
you know, I'm always, when I'm out socially, I can always see somebody, and you just think they are a hairdresser, and they look great, but there's very hairdresser's hair, and sometimes it's. And again, it's about knowing who you are, and you know, we're talking about social because it is so in our world now, that's how it is. But it's knowing who you're talking to is really important. And when you know who you're talking to, it's why I asked you that question as well. You know, finding your tribe. Who is your tribe? And I love actually what you said about the stylists that are a little bit burnt out, because there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
And actually, and I still, like, I think people find it hard to believe that I still cut hair, but I still cut hair. And there are times where I've become burnt out, and actually watching haircuts, and I'm not going to just say it because you're sat in front of me, but actually watching some of your haircuts has got me really excited, because it's beautiful hair that I like creating, wearable, gorgeous hair that
Right.
makes women look great.
And I think it's for me, like I want to like things that I want it to be relatable. So I want to create hair that your client, that's like you said, that's beautiful. You feel like a supermodel walking down there, down the road, but you can actually have it and you can wear it. And as far as like what I put out for myself is that, like, personally, like, I'm not 20. I want to show that you can do this older. You can still put yourself out there, that you can still be relevant in our industry as a woman, over her 40s, like, because you kind of like have this
Yeah.
cutout date, right? And like, and
I
it's,
think the world's changing now,
I
because
think they
women
are
were
too.
looking beautiful into to years, and even with them, you look at artists, music artists now. Women now in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s can
It's
look
pretty
absolutely
amazing.
gorgeous.
But it's
Yeah, I
changing
mean,
the
I
beauty
think it.
industry itself and their mindset, and women's mindset of themselves. I have a lot of older clients that won't let me take pictures because they don't want what they've been programmed in our heads of how after a certain age you're not considered beautiful anymore, and it makes you very insecure. So I really like understand that. So I
Yeah, honestly, we really, nowadays, anybody that ignores uh, women and men of an age
yes,
because they just don't think they're very cool. Well, I'm sorry, you are missing something big time here, because, not only have they now got beautiful hair and beautiful skin and diets and exercise, but have also got the confidence, which,
right.
knocks you out, and that's a massive thing. And I think sometimes we have to make sure that we do not ignore this market, Rachel, because also they're the bigger spenders.
Exactly. And I tell that to my assistants when I'm training them. I'm like, those are the women that can pay for these services. So they're the women when you have a recession that can still come and get their hair done. They're
Oh
the
yeah.
they're the ones that like that are gonna feed your
No.
family with, they're gonna pay. So,
Mm.
I really think it's important for me is like I want relatable hair that's pretty. I want to relate to the new stylist and the stylist that has been around and just feels kind of defeated. So that's my market. That's what I want to reach to. And
I love that, because we've gone through the whole beautiful conversation and actually really worked out exactly who you are. And I know that anyway, but that's great. You know so much of who you are. And that, I guess, would be a great bit of advice, wouldn't it, Rachel, to tell anybody, know actually who you are, and where you're going, and not always to focus on being the educator, because I guess that bit can come later, isn't it? It's about being a great hairstylist,
right.
with your own identity and want.
Well, everything you have to like in order to get to one level to the next, I feel like you need to put your time in and actually figure out where you're going with it and who you are and have the experience behind it. Again, slow and steady wins the race. Like, consistency and, I know from personal experience when I wanted something to like I want something so bad in my youth. Like I used to just be like, I want to do this, and I would just keep on blah blah so much that I ruined it.
I bet you can still do a bit
I
of that.
can't. I have learned to hold back, let it, put it out there, be calm and patient, pull yourself together, and you actually will be taken more seriously, one, and respected. So it's kind of like you can't force things and you can't rush them. And I learned that younger, like I was really bad about that. Like I'm so passionate and just so, I want this, I'm gonna do this, nothing's gonna stop me, that I kind of
Yeah,
like ruined it for myself. So, that comes from just learning from experience. And it's important to be calm, put your time in, master one thing, move to the next, master something so you can share it. And if you haven't mastered it, how are you going to properly share it? And
I
yeah,
love that.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I can tell you one thing for sure. You're one of my faves, right?
Oh, thank
I've
you.
chatted to and I've chatted to a lot of people, but you're absolutely, and absolutely. I'm going to do a signed agreement here that you're going to come back again for me, because I think that we could have quite a lot of
Oh,
conversations
I'd
with
love
you,
to.
Rachel.
Absolutely.
I think it's absolutely important. So, I mean, as we sort of come to the end, I want to just shout out you do education. Is your education all US based, or is this a global? Can you educate us, good folk here in the UK, Ireland, and Australia?
Oh my goodness. It's US based so far. I'd love to come to the UK. Actually, before the, virus came along, I was going to come and do some pop-up classes and teach in the
Oh,
UK. But
please let us know. Well, we'll
yes,
have to
but
keep
then
that
with
contact going
travel,
because
it's so like you just never know. It was like we couldn't travel, and then it made it really hard to get there, and then all these things. So I hopefully when travel.
have you not decided to go with your own academy? Because I would just imagine that your academy would be absolutely rammed out.
How I decided to go with it? No. I just
What what doing you don't feel that would be right for you, an online
an
academy?
online account. So I bought a house last year, and I bought it because it has this room I can made a hair studio, and I bought all the things. I have all the things to do and online. Oh, I don't like. I'm that's a struggle. I'm still like figuring that out because I know that and I'm about pivoting and evolving and all the things. I think I'll do some online series education class, but
Actually, as a motivator, I just look at your work, and actually you as the person, you're so engaging, and that you can be like what we would been covering the whole interview. You could be great at hair cutting, colouring, whatever that vibe may be. But actually, if you've got a beautiful way about you and being able to deliver that, that is just industry gold in itself. And I just see you have real warmth, and I think that's something that has to be shared further afield. And if that means having to do that, so you have to do that.
thank
I'm telling
you
you
for
right
the
now,
encouragement.
because
I get in my own head. Don't we
mm,
all get in our own head and be like, can I really,
well, yeah, well, we have doubts, don't we? We
right.
all have those insecurities, and also your life's busy, Rachel. I guess
It is.
there's lots going on.
But listen, so starting January of this year, I am now down to 3 days behind the chair. Because because I do so much independent classes, and now like with figuring out, because it everything stopped 2 years ago, and then we kind of didn't I didn't pick up until the summer because you're kind of waiting to see how we're gonna do this. And it differs to what state you're going to, and it just differs the time of year you do it, and we're learning that because it's been 2 years, so we know like these it gets bad this time and this time, so do it around these times. Like we're learning, and I'm sitting back and learning this. So this year I'm teaching a lot more, doing a lot more classes. And so yeah, I'm 3 days behind the chair, and so now I have more time to do my online stuff that I actually bought a house to do for.
Look, the house. It's great to hear that you're moving in the house, and I'm sure you're settled in nicely. I'm guessing.
Yes, I still have to like redo so much stuff, but I got my hair studio done because I was like, I'm doing this online stuff,
Yeah,
and I just
absolutely.
need to get
But
to it.
yeah, I think you just do, because I just it just naturally feels right. There are people doing it, and I think, but
But
you
do you
have
feel
such a
like it's
strong brand and
oversaturated
identity.
because so many people do it? Like,
Yeah, yes, but quality will always, the cream will always rise to the top, as you say. And if you have that, then there's a market there. And I think you have a really strong market. And I look, I can't do any of that stuff, but I know what's good,
thank
and
you, thank you.
your stuff is good. And I think there's a real want. And when we done our podcast, we done our whole the world's greatest hairdressers, and you actually came up in that podcast as, you know, one of the rising stars of hairdressing in the world, and I think that's because of what you share. So absolutely, I think you've got something really niche, and I see that it's really consistent in your grid, and when you look through it, I could tell your haircut, and
Thank
I
you.
could tell your colors,
Thank you.
and that's like great musicians. You could tell us. So, and I'm just keen on, you know, I know I shouted it out at the start in the intro, but your Instagram handle, which I really do want people to go and have a look. So maybe just give that a mention.
Yeah. So my Instagram handle is Rachel W Stylist, and that stands for Rachel Williams. People are like, what does that mean? So Rachel W Stylist on Instagram. You can find me there. I always post links of classes, and always like post in stories what I'm doing and where I'm going and all the things. So you can find everything
Lovely. I'm
there.
just going to check out
Yeah.
and all your links and directions. And please get in touch with Rachel. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you. She's a very busy lady, as we all know. And maybe, hopefully, at one time we could bring you over to the UK if there's some vibes going
Oh
on.
my gosh, you know what?
I'm
The first call I get, they want to you. I'll be there.
yeah,
I'll be there.
100%, 100%. So look, I mean, this is new for 2022.
Hmm.
I'll get my years right, because it's my first podcast of the year, which I'm
Oh,
dead excited
awesome.
about.
Well, we get to do it
Yeah,
together. I get to
yeah.
do it with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been well worth the wait. And it's a question because I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I want to put together a little bit of a book at some point.
Hmm.
And it's kind of, it's going to be literally this question. Let's see how it works. So finally, if you could tell us just one more thing, what would it be? Yeah, is it much time to
I know.
prepare
I
for
mean,
that
like you
one,
just
but
put me on the spot. I will say, I will say, get out of your head because we're the get out of your head and do it. So I feel like we hold, for me, I'm the worst. If anybody, I've held myself back the most, not believing in myself, or maybe, what will people think of this? They're gonna think this is like this isn't gonna do good, or they're gonna look at you like you're gonna apply for this job, and who do you think you're, like whatever it is, whatever your creative idea or your where you're going with it, get out of your head and do it. Believe in yourself. It'll be okay.
I think that's a great way to kick off this final question. And I'm going to put this together. I've been wanting to do a book for a long time, and I just, all these wonderful people that I speak to, and I just think finally, if you could tell us just one more thing, let them say. And that's a great way to start. And look, this has been a great way to kick off my first interview of 2022 as we come up to 5 years of the podcast. It really has. You have not disappointed me whatsoever, Rachel. I've loved sitting down with you, really connected. I loved everything that you shared. I think time's passed along really quickly, and I'd love to bring you back again.
I love coming
So
back
we will make that
anytime.
happen. Yeah, so
Anytime.
I just want to say thank you so much for giving you your busy time to come on to the How to Cut It podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.